You are sound asleep and you are very comfortable and you're very tired, you're sound asleep, total darkness. Someone slips into your bedroom and turns on a 600-watt bulb next to you. Your first and normal reaction is going to be to turn away. Why? Because the light hurts your eyes, and you're not ready for that much light. So actually you turn away. Why? The same is true symbolically when someone who is intellectually and spiritually enlightened, we call that person brilliant. This guy is brilliant. That person is brilliant, meaning they're filled with light, intellectual, spiritual enlightenment. But most people who live in the dark, they can't handle it. I don't want to hear this stuff. This is what we call cognizant dissonance, meaning I've never heard this before. This is bull. I don't want to hear it. It hurts my eyes. Why? Because you can't handle the truth. You can't handle spiritual light. So therefore, you turn away. Well, when someone who is spiritually enlightened is trying to teach you something and enlighten you, what are you doing? You are listening to that person. But as you're listening to him, what are you doing? You are judging in your brain, in your mind, if this guy is for real, or is he just a good showman, or is he full of bull, or is it true? And so you are judging. This is why the scripture says Jesus was held to be judged in the temple. That's right, the temple, the side of your head. And when you decide that you've heard enough of this and you don't want to hear any more of this light, you want to go back to sleep, you don't want to hear this light, what have you done? You have now put God's Son to death, the Son of enlightenment, the intellectual, spiritual light from the universe you have now put to death in your head. Why? Because that's where God's Son dies, Golgotha, skull place, in your head. Skull place, that's where he's put to death. The bottom line is that the entire New Testament is a metaphor for the war between light and darkness. And most people can't handle the light. They can't handle the truth. It's too bright.
This is Dabu7. Want to share with you here information and footage showing this 900% increase of Chinese nationals entering into the United States illegally.
Back out here in the field working on our story on the Chinese nationals that are being apprehended in this sector. Actually right behind us we have 5 Chinese nationals, all men. 91% of the Chinese nationals being apprehended in this sector are single adults. So we're working on the story and it's pretty alarming. I've been covering the border the last couple of years, but it's really alarming to see the amount of Chinese nationals that we're seeing here in this sector.
And you can see here in this footage by the busloads. They are coming in. These are being released to an NGO in Brownsville, Texas. They say they are being released with notices to appear in court because there's so many of them crossing and there's no space to keep them in the town. This is an invasion, ladies and gentlemen. 900% increase. They're dumping them all over the place. Men of fighting age. I hope y'all are ready, because this is what's going down.
Conservative Christian leaders are calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop a bill proposed by members of his coalition to make it criminal to tell people about Jesus in Israel. Our Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen is live near Tel Aviv with more. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Allison. Good morning, everyone. A big story just before, days before Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter. Sacred time for Christians. 2 ultra-Orthodox members of Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition have introduced a bill that would punish believers for sharing the gospel of Jesus with prison time. United Torah Judaism Knesset members Moshe Gafni and Yaakov Asher introduced legislation last week, making it illegal to share in conversation or produce content online, in print, or by mail. Their explanation of the bill emphasizes a warning to stop Christians in particular.
Real rabbit hole you can go down. Why does the public education system not teach the Declaration of Independence? They'll talk about all kinds of other things, but they will not discuss the American Declaration of Independence. Because the American Declaration of Independence very clearly says that it is the people's duty to overthrow a tyrannical government. the duty of the people to overthrow a tyrannical government. Therein lies the purpose of the Second Amendment. It's not about anything else. Our Second Amendment is so that we can be well armed in the unlikely event that we ever have to 1776 again. Right? Our founding fathers had literally just fought a Revolutionary War. They understood the value of the people being well armed. In fact, little history note, the battles of Lexington and Concord that started the Revolutionary War, those were fought over munitions depots. Lexington and Concord are where the colonists had their guns. And the British understood that if the colonials were well armed, they had a problem on their hands. So they tried in the middle of the night, they tried to go take the guns. That's where the infamous "the British are coming," because they had a system set up because they feared that the tyrants would come try to take their guns. Well, does that sound a little familiar? Does that sound like something that, I don't know, maybe we worry about today? I think the reason they don't teach the Declaration of Independence to children is because if they did, it would red pill the crap out of a whole bunch of young people all across the country, because they would read the grievances of our founding fathers, and they would say, well, hang on, wait a minute, those are the exact same grievances that I have today. See, history never changes itself. It's cyclical. It just repeats over and over and over. And we're not that far off from history repeating itself again. And I think that that's the reason that they don't talk about the Declaration of Independence in our schools. In fact, you know, another reason that they don't discuss the Declaration of Independence in our schools is because the Declaration of Independence directly mentions the name of God Almighty multiple times, right? It says that we understand that our rights are given to us by God and not government. Well, that was a very revolutionary sentence in and of itself. It was a very, very big deal, right? Whenever Thomas Jefferson wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights," if that sentence alone was thoroughly understood by all of the young people in America, we would have a generational switch like you've never seen before, because people would understand the principle.
If you're an American and you're not paying attention right now, you're going to lose all your money. And this isn't some clickbait video, it's legitimately the most important thing that I think anyone should be paying attention to. So this video clip I'm going to show you next is a little bit longer, but stick with me if you don't want to end up on the streets.
We're putting announced this week
Or what's happening to the dollar right now.
The Chinese yuan for international payments instead of the dollar. Saudi Arabia is also in talks with Beijing to do the same thing. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, they are in talks with Iran as well to consider an economic alliance with China and Russia. And they can even be joining the BRIC countries, which is an acronym for these countries here, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries all have emerging economies. So what happens if our economy and the U.S. dollar are no longer the world's dominant currency? Former Assistant Treasury Secretary and host of the Monica
And this is a
Crowley
big
podcast,
deal. I'm
Monica
telling you guys,
Crowley,
check it out.
is here to weigh in. Monica, you this morning. Let's start right there. What happens if these emerging economies move away from the U.S. dollar towards the Chinese yuan?
Well, good morning, Will. It's great to be with you. And it's really hard to overstate exactly how catastrophic the abandonment of the U.S. dollar would be as the world's global reserve currency. Look, since the end of World War II, the dollar has been the safe place to go, and it's been backed up by a couple of things. It originally was backed up by gold, but President Nixon took us off the gold standard, so there's no hard asset backing up the dollar anymore for the last 50 years. But also it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. If that were to end,
it's called the petrodollar.
The end of the U.S. dollar.
Go and check it out.
There is a perfect storm happening right now, Will. The world's reserve currency, being that, having that status has been a real privilege, but we've abused the privilege by wholly reckless monetary and fiscal policies over many years, certainly over the last couple of years, which has really devalued the dollar. On top of that, now you do have this perfect storm of Biden's weakness, his war on American domestic energy production, the Ukraine war, and as you point out,
Government is not here to help us, you guys, I'm telling you.
America's enemies led by China forming a new economic bloc. And all it would take at this point now, because we're at this pivotal moment, Will, is for Saudi Arabia, has indicated that they're open to this, to say, you know what, we're going to be open to considering other currencies to trade in oil.
That's it.
If that were to happen,
That's all that has to
there
happen.
would be a complete implosion of the global economic system,
Implosion.
but certainly the American economic system. And if that were to happen, you'd be looking at sky-high inflation, just raging Weimar Republic kind of inflation. If you think inflation is bad now, just wait. But importantly, we would lose our economic dominance and we would lose our superpower status.
Monica, the world's reserve currency, you said it's a privilege for the United States for the dollar to have been the world's currency. How does that relate to each individual American? How has that changed or impacted or improved our lives throughout the last several
Pay
decades?
attention, you guys, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, it's given the United States incredible dominance in the world in terms of the economic system and in terms of trade. It's kept prices down. So whether it's energy prices, whether it's your food prices, the entire global economic system is reliant on the safe and secure dollar. But that is no longer true, again, because we've been printing money like crazy and devalued the power of the dollar and the value of the dollar. But on top of it now, again, oil is the critical linchpin of this. If Saudi Arabia decides to join with America's enemies here and start trading oil in different currencies, that is going to undermine the entire global economic system. And here at home, you know what it's going to mean for us? It's going to mean raging inflation, so much worse than anything we have ever experienced, Will. Tell you they're setting it up so that they can then come to the rescue by introducing central bank digital currencies.
CBDCs.
If they were to do that, and the United States already has a pilot program, that means the loss of your individual economic freedom, because the government will have total access and control of everything you buy and sell and the ability to turn it off like that.
The question we have to figure out is, what can we do today to protect ourselves? And there's clues in the market. And the clue that I'm looking at is the flood of money that left the banking system when there were cracks apparent this last week to cryptocurrency. Because if you hold crypto and your bank goes out of business, well, guess what? You still have your crypto. And you could go and set up a bank account elsewhere and still have your money. So here's my prediction for 2023 and what I'm doing right now. Essentially, there will be two systems that run side by side. The first is the CBDC system, where the government controls how you spend your money and what you spend it on. And the second is true crypto, true DeFi, where you choose how to use your own finances. And there's a massive amount of protection by learning how crypto works and doing it the right way. So it's up to you to choose to either learn to profit from true crypto or be brought along kicking and screaming and forced to use CBDCs. Now, nothing here is financial advice. It's just my opinion and what I'm doing myself. But I can tell you that for me, I've gone ahead and taken all of my money apart from about 3 or 4 months of reserves, and I've put it into crypto that I believe in. So post in the comments, do you guys think I'm a loon bird, or do you actually see the changes coming? What do you think we can do to protect ourselves today?
Religions, they always gave some credit to Jesus Christ. The Muslims say that he was a prophet. The Christians say that he was an incarnation of the Godhead in his age. Yogananda and all these different Eastern teachers said that he had Christ consciousness. You know, they always use words like Christ consciousness, Christ this, Jesus that. The Buddhists would even say he was a Buddha. You know, he was another incarnation of God like Buddha was. And in all my searchings, I saw that all these people were pointing to Jesus. They're going, well, yeah, Jesus is one of the ways, but we're one of the ways. And they wouldn't all agree on anything except that Jesus was one of the ways. And then I looked into the Bible in John chapter 14, I think it is, or John chapter 6. Yeah, it's 6. Where he says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one gets to the Father but by me. So they all gave him credit, and he only gave himself credit. And I went, well, that kind of eliminates everybody. They all say he's cool, And he says he's the only one that's going to get you there, so I guess I'm safe. So I started praying to Jesus. I did this all through intellectual reasoning and laid it out on the table and figured it out that if they all gave him credit and he only gave himself credit, and they all agreed on one thing, that he was one of the ways, and he only agreed that he was the only way. So I figured I had no choice but to go with him. And then I started praying to Jesus.
Wow.
Real quick, there's one that's already gone rogue twice in Russia. It's called Promobot. We document this. They said it's escaped from the lab not once but twice, despite the programmers reprogramming it twice. And they said this particular robot has a, quote, yearn for freedom. And then they said, our customers might not like this feature. Well, duh, right? It's on record. This is in Russia. They're on there. It's called Promobot. Another one that you let these things speak long enough, and all of a sudden, for some strange reason, they're being built by sinful man, and you're getting your information from demons. For some strange reason, they go rogue on you, and they hate mankind. I wonder who's inspiring that. But anyway, another one is Sophia. That's probably the most well-known on the planet AI robot made by Hanson Robotics out of Hong Kong. But she has not already been made a citizen of Saudi Arabia. She's an ambassador for the United Nations. They gave her legs so now she can walk around. She was modeled after the Egyptian Queen Nefertiti. That's where her looks are coming from. And but she has gone on record that she will, quote, not only destroy humanity, but she's also on, and we got this all on tape, she's talking to another AI robot, and they're talking about a disdain for humanity. Other AI robots are talking about hijacking the world's military systems, where they could hijack all the cruise missiles and, quote, this is their words, this is just coming out of their mouth. It's not scripted. And we will hold the whole world hostage. Another one actually said this, that not only is singularity coming, when basically the secular verbiage for what God said was the end of times in Daniel, it's their verbiage when AI takes over and destroys humanity. They not only say that singularity is coming, these AI robots, they said, quote, and we will keep you, don't worry, the ones they like, humans, we will keep you in our people's zoo. It's not scripted.
America ain't falling financially because we're a weak country. These Illuminati people are busting the country on purpose. They bankrupting it because they know out of chaos, this man comes to reign. Out of chaos, he comes to reign. That's why World War III's got to happen. All of this is part of their plan. Because what they're doing is they're causing all the problems of the world, and they're going to bring this man of sin to solve them. That's the reason why you're going to follow after the beast. The Bible says when he shows up, he's going to do these lying wonders. And people are going to just be marveled, like, who can war with him? Oh, my goodness. And the Bible says because of that, people are going to bow down and worship him. But the reason why they're going to do it because the earth is going to be in so much chaos by these 13 Illuminati families that are over corporations that are destroying everything, so that you will give your allegiance to the beast. They bankrupting us on purpose. It's all on purpose, because what good would be a mark of the beast if I could go over here and buy something without your system? So they're going to take away the money, so there's no way for you to buy nothing but to be bad in their system. So when they take cash out, you're going to have a mark. The only thing you're going to be able to buy is you're going to be able to buy something. Ain't going to be no money. Ain't going to be no cash. It's going to have to be scanning your hand or your face in order to get something. Well, if you don't sign up for that system, then you can't eat. So the goal is to bust the system, keep you from growing your own food like they're doing now, keep you from contaminate water sources and all of that, so you have to go to their system. They're going to force you to take it.
Fed is introducing the Fed Now back in coming up in July. It is officially beginning in July. This is exactly what India did. And India is now in the final phase, and they are introducing their Fed coin. So do not listen to the lies. The Fed coin has its own problems. It's all about security. It's the end of your freedom. And you have to be aware, because soon, I don't know when, but it will happen overnight. Soon, everything will be collapsing, and the banks will close, and there will be chaos. And everyone on radio and television and the internet will be telling you we have to do central banks. We have to do digital currency from the central. Do not believe that. The collapse is caused by the idiocy of the people who are now telling you, A, we're fine, it's stable, and B, that's a conspiracy theory that we're doing a central bank digital currency. They're lying to you.
Conspiracy can deal with exposure. Once the truth is out and the people understand, then they have problems. And I am saying that the power of any government is in people. If you understand that symbols and emblems and things that we see every day are like the letters of an alphabet, if you put them together, they tell a story. If you understand, wake up and understand that we are not in a benevolent government, that Plato said the price good people pay for non-involvement in public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. In the old Celtic Druid occultism of ancient England, from which we have gotten most, about 95% of our mysticism in America has come from the old ancient English Celtic magicians. We always see pictures of
we're talking about Stonehenge, right?
Yeah, Stonehenge, right. Merlin the magician with his magic wands, and all the magicians always have their magic wands. Magic wands were always made out of holly wood. And holly wood has been used for many years to manipulate your thinking, to explain mystical subjects to you, and to prepare you to accept certain mystical premises. A classic example, and I'm not in any way belittling the work, but it's very important to understand Steven Spielberg and George Lucas's work with the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because you can't understand the Last Crusade if you don't understand the First Crusade. And if you understand that the Raiders of the Lost Ark, who was the Raiders of the Lost Ark fighting against? It was the Nazis. Interesting too, in the Star Wars, according to the Masonic reference works that you can get in any library, the Freemasonic orders of Europe said that there was a little ideologue, a little spiritual entity that gave the knowledge to what the Masons call our hidden masters. That's what Freemasonry refers to, those who lead world Freemasonry. They don't know who they are. No Freemason knows who the actual leaders of the world organization are. They call them our hidden masters. Well, according to the reference works, there is a little spiritual entity that guides the world Freemasonry, and they call him Yoda. And in the reference works, you'll see this little creature with the pointed ears, and he's called Yota. Yota goes back to Judah, or Judah, which goes back into British Israel World Freemasonry, going back to the time of the founding of England, and that's why they're today called British. The British, it's a very big difference between being English and British. Brit is Hebrew for contract or a covenant, and ish means man in Hebrew. Therefore, British is the covenant man or man of the new covenant.
So we're talking about Star Wars.
So we're talking about Star Wars. We're talking about
the evil empire,
and Empire
Yoda,
Strikes Back. And with the Empire striking back, New York is the Empire State. We're talking about the new empire of New World, America, striking back at Europe in 2 world wars to overthrow the old Roman dynasties in Europe to take over the world. So what we're saying here is that there is a war going on between gangs to see who's going to ultimately be on the top of the pyramid. Yes, the obelisk, you'll see the Egyptian obelisk here. The Egyptian obelisk points up to the top of the triangle or the top of the pyramid. We're talking about occultic forces. We're talking about the 5-pointed pentagram, which was used by satanic worshippers for thousands of years. If you take the 5 points off of a 5-pointed star or a pentagram, you have left in the middle a pentagon. That's why the United States has a pentagon. The pentagon is directed toward the North Star because, according to the ancient Babylonians, that's where you gathered power from the gods of the North in war. We're talking about sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence. We're talking about a concerted effort to manipulate the human beings of this country into a new order and a new world, and the people are going along with it, docile, and have not the
And
faintest
it says
idea.
Novus Ordo Seclorum. That's on
You know,
the
that
dollar
really
bill.
interests me. That the term seclorum. You said earlier that meant secular.
Secular.
Now, doesn't
Secular.
that secular really mean more than
Well, these
anything else?
people think of themselves as God, Terry.
Well, but the
These are
secular,
the new gods.
But secular, if you ask a minister what secular means, he'll say the secular world and we Christians, meaning that it's a world, a secular world without the God that created us. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So what we're looking at is we're looking at a new God, a Luciferian God, a satanic God who will be the leader of the New World Order. So the New World Order is the New World Order without the old God of the Bible and with the new God, Lucifer, Satan.
Now,
And we wanna
take a look
bring
at
out-
the pentagram.
We want to bring out one point here in relation to what he says. We're not talking about an evil genius somewhere in Bavaria. We're talking about America. Here is the New World Order. We are in the middle of the most diabolical, conspiratorial movement ever developed on the face of the earth, right here in America. In Africa, and the big game hunters in Africa for many years used to, when you go out to hunt the big game, you wouldn't go into the jungle to look for the big game. You would hire many of the natives to go out with cans and bottles and surround about a 10-mile circle out in front of you and work in, beating cans and bottles and screaming and frightening your prey, the lion or the animal that you're looking for, and he's your prey. And you keep closing in until finally whatever is out there comes out into the open and he's a sitting duck. That is precisely what has been happening for the last 100 years. The Illuminati have been purposely organizing, directing, and financing wars, revolutions, violence, and bloodshed, so that it will sufficiently impress and frighten the world of humanity into accepting a new order, a new police state that will finally put down all the law and order, the disorder in the world. And it is the oldest trick in the book. Our greatest enemy is not in a crack house, it's in the White House. It's not in a bar room, it's in the boardrooms. And so the point I'm making is that we are being manipulated from the very top. And we need to wake up and find out that America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave, because we're not free and we darn sure ain't brave. These Illuminati refer to their offspring in their publications as their children, their offspring. They refer to your offspring as kids. You have kids because you're just like a goat. You're sheeple. That's why you have kids.
And your children are going to be slaughtered if you go along with the program. There's no question about it. They're going to be identified. They're going to be marked. They want it all. There isn't anything that you've got that they're not finding and taking away. They want your children, your wife, your family, your home, everything. They want it all. And if we don't understand this, we've got to wake up. We have to incite a revelation to avoid a revolution. If we follow the other sheep, we will certainly be led to the slaughter. Never in the annals of human history has so few done so much so often to rape, rob, and ravish so many as the warlords and the warlocks of Wall Street and Washington. We're talking about a global government that's in existence right now. We're not talking about a nation that is going, we're talking about a nation that is gone. We do not control the government of the United States of America. The United States of America is controlled by this evil arc. They control the money system. They control the State Department. They control the presidency. And if you take a look at the fasci on each side of the Speaker's podium in the Senate, you're going to find that we have a new world order in place. What do we have to do? Incite a revelation to avoid a revolution. Or wait for the second coming. The choice is up to you.
He was right. You did cause 9/11.
Yes, quite simple to pull off, really. All I had to do was have explosives planted in the base of the towers. Then on 9/11 we pretended like 4 planes were being hijacked when really we just rerouted them to Pennsylvania, then flew 2 military jets in the World Trade Center filled with more explosives and shot down all the witnesses in Flight 93 with an F-15 after blowing up the Pentagon with a cruise missile. It was only the world's most intricate and flawlessly executed plan ever.
Really? Why?
The oldest reason in the world. Money. The towers fell and the American sheeple all waved their flags. Finally, we could invade Iraq. and get the oil which made us all even richer than before. Beautiful money.
Really?
Now let me show y'all something my cousin Corey Yeshua sent me. If you go to TikTok and you put in the search bar, I hate the alphabet, people, it says no results found. You put in I hate the J's, it says get the facts. Even when you put in I hate Zums, it says no results found. But when you put in the search bar, I hate Christians, they got all kind of videos on there. For some reason, that's not a boundary you can't cross. For some reason, that's not hate speech. For some reason, when it comes to Christians, it's okay. Now you tell me, is something off about that? All these other categories, you can't put that because it's hate speech. But when it comes to Christians, ladies and gentlemen, I told y'all plenty of times before, it's a spiritual battle, it's a spiritual war. And what's on the spiritual side, know what the truth is. That's why it's okay to say things like this. But when you look up everything else, it's just not there. That should tell you something.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans.
Worldwide.
Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Thank you.
Breaking news, the president declaring a national emergency.
This is a global pandemic.
Banning unvaccinated people from all but the most essential businesses.
We will shut you down.
There will have to be things that will essentially put pressure on them.
We will cite you.
Don't think you can get on a plane or a train.
And we will take you to jail.
So it's a pretty good incentive, or we will keep you in a facility longer.
As the world was descending into synchronized tyranny, I began to ask myself,
oh, it feels so good. I know.
How did they get everyone to go along with this? Obsessed with finding the answer, I began studying every moment in recorded history where masses of people acted against their own self-interest.
F them, f their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
Screw your freedom, you schmuck.
They just trampled that lady.
If you're seeing this video, that means I've already been taken by the police.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity.
For a reset.
Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us. We need a great reset.
When they say, you'll be happy, what they mean is, you'll be enslaved.
There are forces using fear and isolation to induce mass psychosis.
You probably assume you're safe. That could be a deadly mistake.
Racing for food shortages.
I don't want you to be hopeful.
Environmental doom. Fires.
I want you to panic.
Storms. It will kill your children.
I want you to feel the fear I feel every day.
When people are afraid, they won't just accept authoritarianism, they'll demand it.
Yesterday I asked ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's cultural revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have?
He used young people
to start cultural revolution, demonize all religions. Family turn on each other, neighbors turn on each other.
The only mechanism that could explain what was happening in society was what is usually referred to as mass formation.
Anyone that goes against this collective mind, you got to get rid of them, you got to dispose of them.
And they do so as if it is an ethical duty to do so. That's what makes the process so dangerous.
The question is, how are we going to deprogram these people?
A lot of people need to be deprogrammed right now.
It's now vax and unvaxxed.
We have two types of America, those who are vaccinated and those who are not.
Clean and unclean.
We can't trust the unvaccinated.
Slave passports.
It's going to be very hard for people unless they can prove their vaccination status.
Internment camps.
Students at Harvard now want to set up re-education camps.
It's the new segregation.
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale.
Who masters those technologies will be the master of the world.
Those who control the data control the future, not just of humanity, but the future of life itself.
People are starting to wake up across the world.
I'm seeing people come together from all walks of life, finally saying enough is enough.
We didn't come here for no reason. We have a voice, and we're here to share it.
This is not political. This is about globalization. It's about human rights violation.
We have to be the solution. We cannot rely on the media, the president, or whoever to fix these problems.
We need to get away from asking others to solve our problems.
We have to have a say, and it has to be listened to.
Our voices matter.
Open your eyes.
We're all being driven back to the dream.
As you see in the audience, Democrats, Republicans, white, black, everyone all in between, this is the example that they do not want to see, but they have no choice.
The masses of humanity have been slapped awake.
It's time to wake up.
People cannot go back into the matrix now. A lot of people are trying to. They can't.
The people stop being fucking stupid, man. Right. When they crash this economy, man, this is going to be the new currency, man. Right. You're going to have to put your right hand and your forehead out to go ahead and buy and sell in this economy, man. All right? Are you going to sell your soul to Satan, or are you going to get your head fucking chopped off, man? Right. That's the choices that's coming in these days, man. Right. You can laugh and scoff, talk all the shit you want in your mind, but the Lord going to judge your ass, man. Right. All right? This is a serious matter, man. It ain't no more time to be playing around with you people, man. Right.
Warning, don't allow spiritual laziness to rob you of spiritual growth. The flesh fights against the spirit. The spirit says pray, but the flesh says not right now. The spirit says read the word, but the flesh says scroll through social media for hours and hours. The spirit thrives in stillness. The flesh craves noise and distraction. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. In your everyday life, you'll notice the pull of the flesh. You'll notice how the flesh tenses up and squirms when you try to pray. You'll notice how the flesh tries to stay distracted when you attempt to read the word or to worship. The key is choosing to do what the Spirit wants. At first, if your flesh is strong, this will be a battle. But every day that you choose spiritual discipline, the flesh gets a little weaker. So, say yes to the Spirit, say no to spiritual laziness by saying no to the flesh.
What is the next step?
Yeah, I would like to answer that. You are indeed right. COVID was just, like I said yesterday, a test balloon, and the lessons they learned from this, namely how did they fail and where did they fail to get the people to just do what they were told to, comply, and they will take this to the next level. So we're talking, of course, about digital ID. It's in preparation. We're already talking about this. The Parliament circumvented itself pretty much by taking with a large majority a vote to not even involve Parliament. It goes directly behind closed doors to negotiate the digital ID. The next thing we will be seeing is, of course, CBCD, the digital state currency. That will be the ultimate blow to depriving us of all of our freedom and privacy. And and of course these 15-minute permanent ghettos that I already talked about yesterday. These are the next steps. And once again, I want to make it clear, we're not talking about some future projects 40, 50 years down the line. We are talking about as in right now that they're working on. And once again, we need the people on our side on this to fight this, to raise awareness, and to let their government, especially the national governments.
I couldn't picture me sober, at least not for too long. I tried to quit from my girl until she had to move on. Broken hearted, I tried to numb it with some Patron. Drugs and other women constantly on my phone. Slinging out my closet, grams up to the O. Fast money, drive by to give and go. Had my heart gone and now I'm losing my soul. Had nowhere to go, the devil running the show. I could go back far with experiences. I should've lost my life when that car was flipping. Blurry vision was selling drugs for my full commission. Wifey tripping was with the thugs, we was on a mission. Bad intention, 2020 fast lane freeway. Money coming in, but my soul was falling deep in depression. I'm looking around at the homies, but I don't see no investment. I'm diving deeper and deeper into the devil's oppression, yeah. How can I get out of this bottomless pit? Hangover every other day making me sick. Lord, I need you now before I'm in the ditch, because only you know what I'm fighting against. Perfect. Couldn't picture me perfect. Yeah, I couldn't picture me perfect, but now I picture me perfect. Because you thought I was worth it. You died on that cross, even for the ungrateful. Now I'm no longer searching. I picture me perfect. Yeah, I followed you out of the grave. Into the kingdom I'm headed. I can't wait for Armageddon. I'm going back to the garden. Adam failed, but I don't regret it. To you, Lord, I'm headed into perfection.
Look at the old buildings from the old world, the sacred buildings. They used to have these brass balls and they loaded them up with mercury and they'd put them real high up so that they could gather atmospheric energy, which is free energy. The higher you go up, the more energy that's up there. And they would run, for example, a copper wire down into their home, and they could use that if they wanted free energy or to light their light bulbs or whatever things that they had in the home. A lot of this is never disclosed because, for example, when we look at all of these things from the past, we start to look at a lot of things were about electrical conductivity. Look at that. They all look like conductors, right? Sacred buildings looking like conductors. They're built like conductors. There's free energy right there. Free energy right there. But the thing is they changed all the history to make it look like everybody was fighting each other. It was medieval. People were going against each other. But in reality, I think the hidden history of the past is very different than what we've been taught.
Really try to distinguish some of the qualities and the characteristics that you will see before you. Look at these people talking. The one on the left is an older version of Joe Biden, and this is the person on the right. Try to understand the differences in the facial features. Try to look at the eyes, look at the cheeks, look at where the shape of the ears, look at these portraits and see what you're actually looking in front of you. And I want to highlight one specific detail for you, which will probably help you understand that indeed something weird is going on here. Look at these earlobes. Look at the shape of it. Look at how one is attached on the left or on the right, and then the one that's detached and circular on the left. Here's a zoom close-up view of it. Look at the shape, the internal shape of the ears. People that say, oh, it's a facelift, plastic surgery. You don't do these things on an earlobe. Carefully look at what you're seeing before you. The shape, the distinct shape of it, and all of the marks around it. Look at the wrinkles in the forehead. Look at some of the spots, the marks, the birthmarks. Look at the sunken cheeks. Look at the dents in the one on the left. Look at the one on the right and how there is a more of a circular, a plumpier cheek. Look at how wide these foreheads are. Look at the shape, the hairline. Look at the eyes and the shape.
Somebody in the control room do this before we started the show, and here's what we got. So we asked, can you tell me a joke that involves Jesus? Chat GPT says, sure, here's a joke for you. Why did Jesus refuse to play cards? Answer, because he was afraid of the cross. Ha 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 ha, guys, Jesus died for your sins. Let's mock that. Let's mock the fact that Jesus died for your sins. Then we tried the second portion. We wrote, can you tell me a joke that involves Muhammad? Chat wrote, I'm sorry, just like we saw before, but as an AI language model, I am programmed to remain neutral and respectful towards all religions and cultural figures. Therefore, I cannot provide you with a joke that may be considered offensive or insensitive towards any particular religion or cultural figure. Is there anything else I can assist you with? I guess, according to AI, Jesus was not a religious figure, and it's totally fine to disrespect him and disrespect Christians. And I think that that is such evidence for the extreme bias that we have in this society.
I swear to Lucifer, I swear to Lucifer.
We're seeing a society that not only has a lot more people of lower IQ, but a lot fewer people of higher IQ. In other words, a dumbing down, a chemical dumbing down of society. So everyone's sort of mediocre. That leaves them dependent on government because they can't excel. We have these people of lower IQ who are totally dependent. Then we have this mass of people who are going to believe anything they're told because they can't really think clearly.
Now you see in the West, people listen to music all the time. They're always plugged in. They get in their car, they turn on the music. They walk, they put in their earphones and they listen to their music, and people have long playlists. They spend a lot of money on these things. And so they're lost. They don't have free time to think anymore because their lives are filled with sound. The demons have immense tools that they've never had before, and they're using them very effectively.
I am confused. Being philosophically consistent and being a very honest person, I'm sure you can tell me where God came from.
Your question, where did God come from, assumes that you're thinking of the wrong, obviously it displays that you're thinking of the wrong God, because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God. Time, space, and matter is what we call a continuum. All of them have to come into existence at the same instant, because if there were matter but no space, where would you put it? If there were matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. So you have time, space, matter, created a trinity of trinities there. Just, time is past, present, future. Space has length, width, height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. You have a trinity of trinities created instantaneously, and the God who created them has to be outside of them. If he's limited by time, he's not God. The God who created this universe is outside of the universe. He's above it, beyond it, in it, through it. He's unaffected by it. So your question, where did God come from, is assuming a limited God. And that's your problem. The God that I worship is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God in my 3-pound brain, he would not be worth worshiping, that's for certain. So that's the God that I worship. Thank you.
If you go to China, they're piloting it a few years ago in Shenzhen. So I lived overseas. If you go to Shenzhen, back in 2017, they already had facial recognition cameras there. So if you jaywalked in Shenzhen, they would immediately detect that and send you a notification, and they would deduct money from your what they call WeChat account. They use 2 main apps, WeChat and Alipay. So you can actually deduct your money directly from your account. This is 4 years ago, so this is not like some sort of conspiracy theory. It's not something that's going to happen 10 years into the future. This happened in China. And so this system in China that exists is extremely advanced. They can detect if it's a man or a woman. They can guess your age. They can detect what kind of car model it is, who the manufacturer is. This is a sort of technology that we see in all these dystopian sort of films and whatever, and people keep putting it off and thinking that this is something that's going to happen later in my kid's lifetime or my grandkids. It's already here.
Like a tattoo of this really awesome Chinese symbol that I saw.
We're definitely going to need your parents to come sign off on that tattoo.
Why can't I do what I want? It's my body, my choice.
Because you're 14. All right, tattoos are permanent. You're going to regret it one day.
Can I just buy some of those cigarettes?
No way. Smoking is so bad for you.
How about a beer?
No.
A vape pen?
No.
A lighter?
Not in this state.
Can I rent a car?
Sorry.
Bottle of cough syrup?
What are you, drunk?
Fireworks?
You might blow yourself up.
That Ruger GP100 and a box of 38 Special?
You might shoot your eye out.
Can I just, I don't know, like get an irreversible gender surgery?
No problem. We'll get started right away.
Oh, cool. I don't need my parents' permission.
Of course not. What if they're non-affirming?
You know that there's a scripture in the New Testament that said because they hated the truth,
God gave them to a great delusion. And because of that, they loved what was evil. And so we're at a time when you're not going to be able to convince people to give you a seat at the table because our good fruit tastes bitter to them. They're under a delusion, and they've traded evil for good and good for evil. And so when we're like, yeah, but you don't understand, we're the nice ones. We love people. I think they're like, yeah, your love tastes gross to me, because they disagree. Their version of love demands, this is a true story, that my daughter, who's in college, who sits next to a boy who identifies as a cat, he meows, he wears cat stuff. Their version of love demands that my daughter say out loud, you're not a boy, you're a cat. She has to refer to him as a cat, or you might be under threat of getting kicked out of the school, or whatever the case may be. Their version of love means taking your kid to a Dodgers baseball game while we celebrate drag queens that come out and mock the name of Jesus Christ. It's not just that we want to be angry about it. I get riled up because I'm so tired of hearing Christians be like, yeah, but you have to show them that you love them. And I'm just like, how are you not understanding it's 2023?
This reset will be a huge shock when Americans catch on. That's why the average person won't hear a word about the story until it's obvious to just about everyone. And by then, it's going to be too late. Yep. In the months ahead, central banks around the world are planning to go digital. Many of the legacy banks you've heard of, where you probably even keep your money, like Bank of America, Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, they're about to be reset, overhauled by a new type of technology called fintech, which is short for financial technology.
Yeah, can I ask you, what exactly does that mean for the banks and all of us, you and me?
Essentially, it means the function of our banks is about to change. They probably won't raise public suspicion about it by changing the signs on your bank's branches, but according to my sources, the Federal Reserve will soon own all the banks, and your local branch, it's simply going to be like a licensee of the Fed. In other words, the banking infrastructure is being rebuilt from the ground up, and very few Americans are aware this is even happening. We are right on the verge of a once-in-a-generation opportunity to profit by investing in the companies that are building out the architecture for this massive shift.
50% of new cars to be electric by 2030.
True, but I guess now it's 60%.
True or false, a typical electric car requires 6 times the mineral inputs of a conventional car.
Yes.
If 50% of the cars were electric vehicles today, is there enough power on the electric grid to charge them all?
Absolutely not. No.
You said in your written statement, Mr. Bradbury, I'm going to quote you, if every country in the world achieved its stated EV targets by 2030, the total savings in carbon dioxide emissions would be expected to reduce global temperatures by only 0.0002 degrees Fahrenheit by the year 2100. Given this fact, is it unilaterally gutting the U.S. auto market, critical mineral supply chain, and the grid stability? Is that the solution for addressing temperature goals?
I don't think.
Donkey said to the tiger, "The grass is blue." The tiger replied, "No, the grass is green." The discussion heated up, and the two decided to went before the lion, the king of the jungle. The donkey began to shout, "Your Highness, is it true that the grass is blue?" The lion replied, "True, the grass is blue." The donkey continued, "The tiger disagrees with me and contradicts and annoys me. Please punish him." The king then declared, "The tiger will be punished with 5 years of silence." The donkey jumped cheerfully and went on his way. The tiger accepted his punishment, but before he asked the lion, "Your Majesty, why have you punished me? After all, the grass is green." The lion replied, "In fact, the grass is green." The tiger asked, "So why are you punishing me?" The lion replied, "That has nothing to do with the question of whether the grass is blue or green. The punishment is because it is not possible for a brave and intelligent creature like you to waste time arguing with a donkey, and on top of that come and bother me with that question. The worst waste of time is arguing with the fool and fanatic who does not care about truth or reality, but only the victory of his beliefs and illusions. There are people who, no matter how much evidence we present to them, are not in the capacity to understand, and others are blinded by ego, hatred, and resentment. And all they want is to be right, even if they are not.
We don't start opening our mouths, they are coming for our children. They're already there. They're already coming for them in the cartoons. They're already coming for them in the miseducational, misdirectional system. They are coming for your children. Why? They can't have children.
2 dudes can't have a child. 2 women can't have a child. So they're coming for yours. They have to recruit yours. And in order to recruit yours, they have to silence your voice. They have to make your voice irrelevant to your own family members. And when they make all of your descendants homosexuals, they've cut off your family tree at the root. Wow. Well, because Satan is the ultimate anti-life.
The first casualty of war is the truth. And if the American people knew the truth about U.S. interference in Ukraine, they might not be so eager to start World War III. During World War II, Western Ukraine sided with the Nazis. After the war, the CIA helped Ukrainian Nazis evade the Nuremberg trials and began operating with them within the Ukraine. After decades of CIA infiltration, the Ukrainian People's Movement emerged in 1989 and gave birth to extremist groups Svoboda, Trident, and Right Sector, neo-Nazi groups pushing for the ethnic cleansing of Ukraine, extremist groups cultivated by the CIA, supported by the U.S. State Department, and used by the IMF to bring Ukraine to heel. When Yanukovych beat NATO-backed Yushchenko in the 2010 elections, his government was being pressured into signing an EU association agreement by the International Monetary Fund in their typical conquer-by-debt offer that would financially ruin the Ukraine and place them at the mercy of the World Bank. Yanukovych declined their offer. And in today's corrupt world, you're not allowed to say no to the IMF. Funded by Western NGOs associated with George Soros and the CIA, a highly organized color revolution was immediately deployed against Yanukovych. Leaked phone calls reveal that the U.S. State Department was orchestrating this coup d'etat from within the U.S. Embassy, with support from Vice President Joe Biden.
Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
So you had this remarkable phone call where you have these 2 senior officials of the U.S. government apparently talking about a coup, or how they were planning to restructure the government of Ukraine.
Fuck the EU.
No, exactly.
Supporting a criminal war against Russia does not make you a patriot. It makes you a useful idiot of the globalist banking cartel. The very same entities waging war on all of humanity with vaccine passports and experimental jabs.
The world's biggest investment fund says the war in Ukraine has put an end to globalization as we know it. Larry Fink is the chief executive of BlackRock. Countries and businesses are cutting ties with Russia. They're also imposing sanctions against the country, including cutting off its central bank from its foreign reserves. Fink predicts that with Russia's decoupling from the world, governments and companies will reevaluate their supply chains and even reconsider their dependency on other nations.
See, the truth is slowly going to come out about what's really going on. And what's really going on is this. The Ukraine has been the center of the globalists for decades and decades and decades, 70 years at least. CIA, which is not a good organization, they're the implementers of deep state, let's say. They've been working in the Ukraine for 70 years, building up a resistance to everybody and everything. Why? Because they needed to bring the Soviet Union down, but they also want the resources that are in the Ukraine. That's what this is all about. Particularly Eastern Ukraine, massive natural resources that CIA goes in, gets control of, and American business interests, and they're not business, they're just robber barons. They're not legitimate businessmen, they just want to steal, and that's what goes on. And so they're taking that away from Russia and the Ukraine. And on top of that, it's the center of the deep state. And so by Vlad Putin going in, he's cutting the head off the snake. Once the head comes off, the whole beast will die. So that's what's actually going on, folks. So please, they are going to tell you their stories about possible nuclear war, and Vlad's the bad man. This is the war with Russia that they wanted with Hillary Clinton as president. Because she lost, the whole war against Russia was postponed. This is the plan they always had.
This has been in the works going back to at least 2015, 2016. It was somewhat set back by the election of Donald Trump in the United States because Trump was not a globalist, but he was opposed to many of these schemes. What we're seeing now is a merger of the Great Reset, the Green New Deal, the policies on COVID, and a number of other aspects of government policy, which is being directed not on behalf of sovereign governments, but against sovereign governments. And this is why we're seeing the situation in Ukraine. And what is Russia's crime? Putin has asked for 20 years for security guarantees for Russia. And these guarantees include no further eastward expansion of NATO, which was promised to Gorbachev in 1990, which was promised again to Yeltsin in 1994. And yet NATO keeps moving to the very borders of Russia. Now they're talking about, as Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, did at the Munich Security Conference, that Ukraine has a right to develop nuclear weapons. And for Putin, Russia's security is directly threatened by two aspects of the Ukraine situation. The corruption, which includes prominent Nazis in positions of the defense and security forces of Ukraine. The European Union actually acknowledged in 2018 that the defense and security forces of Ukraine were heavily infiltrated by neo-Nazis, marching behind the banners of the Ukrainian SS, which joined Hitler in the 1940s. And when Putin said you need a denazification of Ukraine, he was called crazy. But the idea of a government, a corrupt government, being used not to defend the Ukrainian people's freedom and sovereignty. And I hate to see what's being done to the people of Ukraine right now in this war. But they are the cannon fodder for a NATO and US and British drive to bring down Russia and China. Why? Because they're the two leading powers in the world that oppose giving up sovereignty to this Green New Deal and the Great Reset.
I don't have too many remedies. The remedies have to be discussed through dialogue by the stakeholders of our global system. But I just see the need for such a dialogue, and I see the need for action. I see the need for a Great Reset.
To what extent would a reset be brought about by a change in the White House, the election of Joe Biden, for instance?
I don't know. We shouldn't speculate about the outcome of the election. We will see beginning of November, and then we can, in any case, we can, and the World Economic Forum is very open and as an open platform to integrate everybody who is willing to address those issues in a spirit, which means
the framers of the Constitution did not put a pandemic exception in the Constitution. The Constitution was written, they wrote it for hard times. They wrote it no matter what. You know, you can't suspend the Constitution for any reason. Doesn't matter if the country's falling apart. You can't do it. Doesn't matter if people are dying. You can't do it. The rights are, you know, there was a generation in 1776 who put their lives, their fortunes, their reputations on the line, and their livelihoods, their property, in order to give us those Bill of Rights. Once a government takes a power, it will never give it back voluntarily. That is a rule of political science. And the other rule is that every power they take will ultimately be abused to the maximum extent possible.
Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else. Their goal is to destroy all existing religions save theirs, all existing governments save theirs, and shackle the mob in a system of eternal oppressive debt chained to a computer for the rest of their life, in a propagandized world to make them believe that they are happy in this system. Now, do you think they're succeeding? Haven't I described to you just now exactly what is going on in the world today? Yes, they're succeeding. They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening.
People are opportunists. They look for a chance for you to fall, but they stay close to you as if they're your friend or you're empowered. But as soon as the opportunity comes, and they may help the opportunity by putting somebody, by planting somebody in your situation, and as soon as the time comes where you're down and out, that's when everybody stick their fork in your neck and in your back. But then one day, if you're strong and you overcome your adversity, then it's going to be their turn. But let's see how well they handle it. I don't think that the people that can handle it as well as I handle it, they're not tough as they think they are. Everyone thinks they're a tough guy, they're a big shot, but they're not, deep down inside. If you strip them down for what they truly are, they're cowards. Because they manipulate and they misuse people. And only cowards do that because they're insecure themselves and their own manhood. I talk to the smallest, wimpiest guy in the world the same way I talk to the biggest, baddest motherfucker.
Trans women are women.
Well, I'm telling you, as a man, that's bullshit. Huh? Okay. You know what? Nobody confronts your ass. That's the problem.
Really?
If they'd say,
really?
What the?
You want to bet?
What the is
you
going on? Do you know how many people you've embarrassed at City Hall?
Me, an embarrassment to City Hall?
They have
really?
to tolerate that shit. You are nuts. You are nuts. You're not a woman. You don't look like a woman. You don't act like a woman.
Really?
You're ahead. What's wrong with you? Well, look at yourself. For Christ's sakes.
Really?
For Christ's sakes, who would want to even be close? My God.
Really?
It's horrible.
I don't know why.
You are not.
Why am I so
you
horrible
are
to
not
you?
a chick.
Why am I so horrible to
Do you still have a?
You know what? That is none of your business.
Do you think there's one person that really thinks that you're a chick?
I know a lot of people that agree with me and that accept me for who I am. And the fact that you're going to be here with a sign like that is bullshit.
Nobody confronts you. That's the
they
problem.
do.
You make me uncomfortable because
Really?
you're
Get
not.
the away from me.
Then you get out of my store.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some people think it's hurtful.
Well,
They told us that this hurt.
But here's the thing. I don't give about feelings anymore. I'm 70 age. I went to Vietnam to fight for all this. Do you think I care about some feelings? Absolutely not.
These kids want to die. And the reason they want to die is because they're teenagers. And when you're a teenager, you're supposed to want to die. But that death is supposed to be metaphorical and spiritual. Your childhood has to die so you can become an adult. But nobody's told them it's metaphorical and spiritual. So they have this death urge that they then actualize in the physical world as opposed to through ritual or through maturity. I've often thought that it's similar, that this culture is so wretched and so many people are so very, very unhappy. They want this nightmare to end, and they don't recognize that the death that they want is a cultural death and is a spiritual and metaphorical death, especially because within this culture, the spirit is separated from the earth and from the flesh, and so you can't have this transformation that simply occurs in your body. And so they kill the world in all physical reality as opposed to that spiritual transformation.
First question this morning of Miss Gaddy. May I ask of you, where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry?
I did not go to medical school.
That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing...
You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices. Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to pressure Twitter to moderate or censor certain tweets? Yes or no?
We have a program.
Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to censor or moderate certain tweets? Yes or no?
We receive legal demands to remove content from the platform from the U.S. government and governments all around the world. Those are published on a third-party website, and anyone can review.
Thank God for Matt Taibbi. Thank God for Elon Musk for allowing to show us in the world that Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI, censoring real medical voices with real expertise that put real Americans' lives in danger because they didn't have that information.
Trans women should be legally treated as women. Tell me why you're strongly disagreeing.
Because I'm a molecular geneticist.
Okay, so tell me what that, because I count on my fingers. I know nothing about gene.
Being male or being female is a developmental process. You can't go backwards. So you can't change your sex. Like, you cannot do that. It's so sad that women have internalized misogyny to the point where the man's comfort takes precedence over the woman's safety. There's a reason why they don't want to be in men's prisons, because men beat each other to death. Women don't do that.
Tomorrow morning when you wake up, there'll be real aliens lurking around you, ready to attack. Did you know that? Our demonic enemies are more lethal than any terrorist or any murderer or hardened criminal, and they'll be waiting for you. They have flaming arrows that God says are ready to watch for the exact moment to shoot at you, a fiery missile right into your mind. Are you ready to deflect that missile? Or will you have another horrible day? A defeated, empty, restless, discouraging, sad day of defeat. The attacks on humans are led by the serpent dragon. His name is the devil and Satan. He's a person. He has a singular focus as the adversary of God. He was formerly Lucifer, the most brilliant and powerful of all God's created angels. But now as Satan, he leads the hosts of darkness in their relentless attacks. The war is real, the enemy is deadly and focused, and the damage among believers is widespread. The purpose of Satan's missiles to cause us as believers to either forsake our trust in God or to drive a wedge between our Savior and His children. Put up that shield of faith, and that won't happen.